Hey guys, I was editing this video and realised that I was really heated in it and like kind of yelling at some point. So if you don't want to watch that, just feel free not to watch this because it's probably not for most of you anyway. But if you want to hear some good points and see Ryland get angry, which doesn't happen much, then watch it. Anyway. Hi guys, it's Ryland. I haven't done a lot of videos lately because there is a lot going on in our lives that we can't talk about, and there's a lot going on. We really don't have a lot of time to focus on YouTube, but I'm making this one. It might not be the video you guys want because it may seem unprofessional or whatever, but I'm getting pretty sick of people thinking that they know us or thinking that they know what DID is like when they've never met somebody who has it, never met us, but yet they know with 100% certainty that we don't have DID, we're just crazy or we're just lying. And everybody, all the professionals who diagnosed us, who have worked with DID 30, 40 years, are wrong, or we just made it up and we've never been to a professional. So I'm going to address some of the things that people have said to us and about us, and explain why that's not correct. That way, the next time somebody has something to say about it, I can refer them to this video, instead of having to waste a bunch of energy every single time. Out of the people I've met in real life, very few of them have thought that I was faking it. The only ones who have not known me for very long at all. And I didn't want to know them any longer after they made assumptions and were rude about it. So, let's just begin now.
Let's begin now.
The first one, which kind of makes me laugh, honestly, is you can't really have DID because your accent sounds fake. I'm not claiming to be possessed by the soul of a British person. I've never been to England. Just because I've developed this way doesn't mean it's going to be 100% accurate. Lot. I don't understand how that argument makes any sense whatsoever because I'm not an actual British person. I have a British accent, I identify that way, but I've never been to England. I'm not going to sound like a real British person having never been to England, having not been born and raised there. And I have no idea what that has to do with the validity of the disorder whatsoever. Also, oh, your accent started off this way and then it faded over the video or something. That's typically because somebody inside is co-conscious with me, and so when I'm co-conscious with somebody, my accent or voice or mannerisms blur together with theirs. That's a valid statement and question. Hope that explains that. Another thing that really irritates me is people saying we can't really have DID because Katie's the host, but not the original. That's impossible, that can't happen. The woman who diagnosed us, I'm going to say this multiple times throughout this video, to just really hammer it in, she's worked with DID for 40 years. Most of the people who say this have never met somebody with DID. She said that within the community of people with DID she's actually worked with, that's not uncommon. It's not the most common, but hosts can change throughout time. The host is simply the person who fronts the most, who comes out the most. It does not have to be the original. Sometimes Katie is really distressed. Right now, Katie's not hosting. Marcy is hosting. You don't know Marcy because I'm not going to get into that. Right now, Katie's not hosting. Somebody else is hosting. She's not... Host is not something set in stone. It's just who fronts the most at that time. Sorry, I'm really heated. I've had a long week and this is really getting on my nerves. Your inner world is really elaborate. That can't happen. Yeah, it can. It can happen. It does happen. Some people's inner worlds are very small. Some people's are very large and elaborate. Ours used to be pretty small. It's developed over time. The reason that our inner world is a lot is because the outer world is a lot for us. We need somewhere to escape to where we have options. Because if we're stuck in one room constantly, it doesn't feel like an escape anymore after a while. Like, when the outer world is so much like it is right now, that we can't deal with it, we don't want to be in it, going to one room and living there for weeks starts to feel really crowded. It doesn't start to feel like an escape anymore. It begins to feel like we're trapped there as well. That's why we have multiple options of places to go. Now, it's not like all of these places are running in our head simultaneously all the time. If nobody's there, like if we're all in the headspace and nobody's in Otherville, it's not like there's a million things happening in Otherville. Somebody mentioned Angel, and that Angel would not be able to make a YouTube video if she was a traumatized 10-year-old. And that the flashback she had was fake. Because because flashbacks don't happen for no reason. And it was for added drama. Well, there's so many things wrong with that. First of all, just because someone has trauma in their life, just because they're traumatized, doesn't mean they can't have a normal life. Doesn't mean they can't do normal things and enjoy life sometimes. Just because... And yeah, that video was hard for her, as you have seen if you watched it. She was very nervous. She was very, anxious. But she did it. She wanted to be normal. The reason she did it is because she wanted to be like the rest of us. She wanted to be like everybody else. She didn't want to be incapable of doing that. And implying that she is, or that she would be if it was real, is just so insulting. Because, yeah, we've been through shit in our lives. That doesn't mean that we're incapable of having lives. Also, as for the flashback being fake, that is one of the most fucked up things that someone could say. Like, your trauma is fake, or your trauma happened, but that was just you pretending to be traumatized in the moment. No, it was real. It wasn't out of nowhere. There was a trigger. Just because I didn't show the trigger doesn't mean there wasn't one. There were reasons I didn't show the trigger. One, because then if we watch it back, we watch the video back, we could become triggered again, and I have to watch it multiple times while editing. Just because you don't see the trigger doesn't mean there's no trigger. And another thing is that trigger's a very personal thing. Like, what traumatizes us, what gives us flashbacks and anxiety is very personal and vulnerable, and we don't owe you. Like, we don't have to share that with you. We don't owe you anything by sharing what sends us into flashbacks. Especially when there are people out there. We have a hard time trusting people, and there are people out there who could use that to manipulate and control us, and we don't want to be controlled anymore. I feel like this shouldn't be that hard to wrap your head around, but for some people, they've just got their minds so made up that they know the situation, that they know the truth, and that we're lying, this can't possibly be real, they've never met us, they've never spoken to us, they've never met anybody with DID, but they know. Another thing that's very common that we get, you don't have DID because it's impossible to control your routers, or to have any sort of communication with them. It's impossible to get them out to do a video. That sort of thing. A couple notes on that. Because it's so common that people say this. One, we don't have full control. A lot of times somebody will come out and then do a video. It's not normally, I want you to do a video, so come out. It's normally they come out, they're out anyway, and because they're out, they make a video. Like, for instance, in the integration video, I was planning on having Jake and Fighter both talk about integration in that video. Oh, and Catherine. They weren't able to come out at that time, so I didn't have them do it, and I didn't want to wait around for them to come out. I wanted to get that video done then, because I'm very impatient sometimes. So they weren't in the video. That happens sometimes. You know, we can't always have full control. But also, having control to an extent over the alters, having communication, is not that rare. If you've never been to therapy, then yes, it's rare. We've been to multiple therapists, worked on that specifically. We worked with our therapist, who was a specialist in DID. We worked on specifically communication between alters for over a year, probably a year and a half, specifically on that. There were other things, but that was the main thing we worked on. So, yes, we have pretty good communication. We have very good communication and control. And it's very possible. Most of her clients have that because she's very, very good at what she does. Another thing we've gotten, if we had something like this, like DID, in our lives that continues to cause us stress, and it wasn't helping us cope with trauma from the past, it wasn't real, we were just making it up, why would we continue to live a life with a lie that only causes us more stress? All that DID has done for us, that's positive, has helped us to cope with the trauma we have. Helped us to cope with a life that we can't handle, that Katie or Catherine couldn't handle as a single, unfragmented person. Now, say that wasn't true, say she just made it up. Then having DID would do nothing for her, aside from making her friends too overwhelmed to stay, and basically she doesn't have friends. We have, as a sister, well, 2 close friends, including Emma. Neither of them live close to us. We don't get to see, we have no friends. No, I'm not exaggerating. We have 0 friends who live near us that we get to see on a daily or even weekly basis. We see Emma about once a month. Now, a big reason for that is because people get overwhelmed with our DID, get overwhelmed with our problems. They can't keep up. If we were faking it, why would we carry out a lie that hurts us, that causes us so much stress in our life? The church retreat wouldn't have happened if we didn't have DID. The thing at the mental hospital wouldn't have happened if we didn't have DID. The thing at the eating disorder centre wouldn't... The months that we spent at the eating disorder centre spiralling further and further into depression because our therapist didn't know how to treat DID would not have happened if we didn't have DID. If we were just lying about this, don't you think we would have dropped it by now? Don't you think if we were just lying and we didn't want people to know we were lying, don't you think we would have just integrated by now? If it was causing us so many issues in life. If we could just turn it off, there are so many traumas in our past that would not exist today. And then there's the people who think that we're all demons using DID as a way to get people interested in us so that we can lure them into the devil's way of life. I don't really know what to say about that. If that's what you think, then sure. We'll have videos the next several days featuring Katie's mum. That should be interesting. So yeah, look forward to that and see you guys next time I'm in a video. Bye.